Hello everybody and welcome! My name is Ursa and this is Europa Universalis 5. And I'm here to tell you that you are going to be rubbish at this game. Yes, that's right. You're going to be absolutely rubbish at this game. But don't worry, that's absolutely fine. So was I. A quick shout out to Paradox Interactive for kindly sponsoring this video and allowing me early access to the game. Now, why am I saying you're going to be rubbish at Europa Universalis 5? Well, let me show you. We click on new game and then select a country, and especially if we look around the world map and zoom into what is the Holy Roman Empire, you will see that this is one of, if not the most complicated game Paradox has launched in some time. Europa Universalis 5 is incredibly complicated and it has a huge learning curve. So today, I have gone through all of my extensive experience with this game and have created and compiled a list of 5 topics that you, a new player who is rubbish at this game, needs to take on board, because this will help you to adapt, to learn, and get stuck into what is one of the most comprehensive, versatile, and awesome grand strategy games on the market. We start at the beginning. On point 1, who do you play? How does EU5 recommend you pick a country? When we go in and select a new game, you will see that we have an option called Select a Recommended Country. And by and large, these are some really good options for different reasons. Holland and Hungary are pretty decent economic stats if you want to stay put and expand your influence through trade and taxes and economy. These are really good options. Want something a little bit more subtle? Well, Naples and Norway both have political stats, much more adept at tackling the behind-the-scenes nitty-gritty of diplomatic relations to expand your influence across the map. Naples, for instance, begins a very large and long quest to attempt to unify Italy. And Norway does a similar thing for expanding into and colonizing Scandinavia, Iceland, Greenland, and so on. Finally, that just a little bit too subtle for you? Well, don't worry. Castile and the Ottomans have been selected as aggressive expansion starts, aka a military playstyle. Castile, for instance, the major power in what will be Spain if you can unify it, and the Ottomans, well, a hint, there's this thing called the Ottoman Empire that was absolutely massive. Well, there you go, you can start that. Now, why are these particular nations especially good? Well, as you'd imagine, if we pick, for instance, Castile, the game will take us through a walkthrough. And here we are. Loading into the game, you will get a series of pop-ups that will literally explain to you everything from mouse and controller movements, how to work the nested tooltip systems, and then as you go through, it will even build the user interface for you until eventually you get something that looks like this. You're going to hear me say this a lot. EU5 is a very complicated game. This walkthrough will take you through, I would say, 30 to 40% of the information you need to get stuck in. It is a fantastic place to start. Building on this further, you will notice on the right of the screen, we have missions, economic, political, and expansion missions, where if we go in and select them, for instance, by humiliating a rival, we will take a look at what is effectively a quest tree, a sequence of missions that we should undertake that will effectively not only build on your playthrough, but also teach you the mechanics of the game. I would massively advise going through the missions on your first few playthroughs, especially because they actually do have rewards in-game for completing them. So they're not just tutorials. But okay, I can hear you saying, Ursa, all you've told me so far is who do I play? Well, you pick the recommended countries. I will explain a little bit further. Let's go back to the select any country tree, and we're going to have a look from the other direction. Who should you not play? The map is absolutely massive, and as you can see, has thousands of powers. I mean, I'm really not exaggerating. Would you like me to zoom in yet again on this area of the Holy Roman Empire? Look at it. It's absolutely crazy. How would you even manage this? Who do you not pick? Well, actually, here's a nice little list of places that are harder to play than others. Firstly, New World countries. It is perfectly possible to, for instance, play as a Native American tribe on the Central Plains, or as a Central American Aztec nation, maybe even some South American American nation in the Andes or a tiny island nation in Indonesia. It's perfectly possible to learn the game and play any of those playthroughs well, but it is incredibly difficult. I would avoid playing anybody that is considered to be a super minor or regional power. The game doesn't quite flow as properly as it should, and you will find yourself butting against mechanics that just simply don't work unless you really know what you're doing. Secondly, I would avoid playing a disintegrating nation. For instance, the Golden Horde, Great Yuan, or everyone's favorite, the Byzantine Empire. I know, I'm telling you not to play the Byzantines. I'm sorry, I feel as disgusted with myself even saying that because I love a Roman playthrough. However, not every start is equal in EU5 as you might imagine, and these starts, they are designed to go badly. The Golden Horde will, on the death of its leader, absolutely collapse. It's supposed to happen. Great Yuan has this thing called the Red Turban Rebellion. It's a very famous historical event. It will rip the country apart. Sure, you can fight against it, but you really need to know what you're doing. And the Byzantines, well, as you know, the Byzantine Empire was very big. This is now very small. And did I mention earlier the Ottomans? Let's think about this. Is there a famous thing that happened between the Ottomans and the ripping down of Constantinople and the disintegration of the Byzantine Empire? I'm sure that I'm getting on something here. Look, I'm not stopping you. If you want to play the Byzantines on your playthrough, that's fine. Don't come crying to me when it all goes terribly wrong. Give yourself a break. Please. Speaking of, when you look at different mapped countries and different places that you could start, like for instance Naples, if we click up here onto this game rules tab, you will notice that actually we can change things a little. For instance, I could lower the player difficulty, giving me a more relaxed and easier experience. This will divide opinion considerably, especially if I put it down to very easy. There is an argument, a very fair argument, that learning to play a game on a very easy difficulty will give you a very full sense of the meta or optimum moves you can make. A lot of people will tell you, no, actually, what you should do is really go into this on normal difficulty because then at least you know what's happening. You know how the game's mechanisms are supposed to work. Give yourself, honestly, a break. This game is beautifully difficult. It is deliberately difficult to get your head around. Playing on an easy difficulty will just give you a little bit of an edge. You'll have more money, more stability, more combat, effectiveness. Everything will just work a little bit better. And I would hugely recommend that you do that, at least at the beginning. You can also do things like turning the AI difficulty down, which again can be difficult because especially on lower difficulties, well, they just attack you less. You can up the rewards from missions, change the amount of information in the game. It's worth having a look at these game rules before you dive in. That isn't the only selection of countries though that I would avoid. No, not just disintegrating nations. I would be very careful of any nation that starts in a complicated organization. What do I mean by that? Well, for instance, the Holy Roman Empire. How do I tell that we're in the Holy Roman Empire? If I select one of these nations, you can see down here the international organization, the Holy Roman Empire. They are organizations scattered through the game that make local and diplomatic mechanics incredibly difficult. The Holy Roman Empire is a very complex organization. You can thrive within it. Hey, do you want to start in Cologne and become the emperor and take over everything? I bet you do. And that's fair. Just don't try it on your first playthrough. Equally, be careful of places like the Middle Kingdom. We've spoken about Great Yuan just collapsing. Well, the Middle Kingdom, again, you start with 117 subjects. I'm not joking. 117 subjects. Just, it's a headache. And who can forget everyone's favorite, the Pope? The Pope is actually really fun because as the head of the Catholic Church, you get sent a lot of money from basically the entire Catholic world, which has 492 members in. You are very rich, but also being the Pope, there are a bunch of rules about being the Pope that make it incredibly difficult, and none of the game mechanics will work in the way that they should. There's another thing you should look out for because this will give you a flavor of how complicated a start is. If we have a look, for instance, at Brittany and have a look at the top left, we will see that there is 1 country event and 3 country bonuses. Now, these refer to unique mechanisms to do with this start. Brittany has a dynamic historical event, which means something will happen to this country that doesn't happen to anything else. Equally, there are 3 unique bonuses that this country has. They may not necessarily be positive. For instance, Byzantium has 23 country bonuses, and let me tell you, a lot of these are terrible. It's like the game wants you to collapse. But 58 country events. In fact, actually, if I go to the Kingdom of England, you will see 233 dynamic historical events. This is a really, really, really good way of getting an idea of how complicated a start is going to be. Portugal, for instance, with 62 is going to be a lot more simple to get your head around than Castile with 178. Although Castile is a recommended start, it's probably not a good example. England is a really good example, 233. There's a lot that goes on in England, and trust me, as an Englishman, I tried to jump in as quickly as I could. Yeah, very tricky. So there we go. A small summary about how the game thinks that you should pick a country. This leads me to my second big point. How does Ursa Ryan suggest you start this game? Because I have a slightly different recommendation. Now, there's nothing wrong with playing as a recommended country on the start and going through the tutorials, but as I mentioned before, this is a very, very complicated game. The tutorial will only get you so far. Eventually, you're going to be thrown into the piranha pit where you'll be fighting to stay alive. There is another way of doing this. Let's go back and select any country. Let's go and have a look, for instance, at a country like Portugal. Portugal is what we would call a medium European power. It's pretty big, but not too big. Pretty safe, but can still get fruity with the map. Why is it safe? Well, it starts not only in the Catholic Church, but also connected via royal marriage to the country of Castile, which means you're pretty safe with a nice, friendly, larger ally. As we go in and select Portugal, again, you will get a little bit of a flavor here of the complexity of this game. There's a lot to sort out at the beginning, and let's just zoom into the map. This game has so many provinces. It is absolutely incredible how much detail there is in this map. A country like Portugal in EU5 has more areas to control than a country like China in Victoria 3. That's why I'm saying pick someone a little bit smaller. Maybe after you've gone through the tutorial, maybe you've gone through a few missions, maybe this is your first time going into the game. I would like you to have a look at this cog in the top right hand of the screen. This is the automation tab. Now, this is going to divide opinion between YouTubers just a little bit because the automation tab, well, it automates the game for you. Some would say that this is a bad way of learning the game because how else are you going to learn than to actually manually take over everything and run things yourself? That's how you learn the mechanics. That's how you learn good play. And yes, I do agree with that. But I have to say, try not to take too much on with this game as you can. I have a different recommendation. The automation tab can give you the option to automate pretty much anything in the game. All the yellow options are your economic options, the blue your diplomatic, and the red your military. Some of these things are small, like automatically replacing generals and admirals in your army as they come and go. That's really small and very effective. Otherwise, you'll have pop-ups all the time saying, hey, Ursa, your army doesn't have a general. Would you like a general? Well, yes, just put the best one in. It really doesn't matter. But it also allows you to do medium-sized things, like, for instance, picking which rivals I have in the game, deciding which estate privileges are here, who's working on my cabinet, but also really big things like what buildings do I produce? What resources shall I exploit? What trade shall I do? What I would like you to do is select everything. Absolutely everything. Balance, trade, production mechanics, buildings, closing and opening buildings, subsidizing buildings, destroying buildings, estate buildings, resources, research, laws, government reforms, cabinet, parliament, estates, culture acceptance, religious doctrines. I'm saying these all out loud because I really need you to have a sense of how complicated this game is. Diplomatic interactions, rivals, exploration, colonies, army construction, navy construction, and then replacing generals and admirals. All of this is now automated. This, by and large, now means that the game is now playing itself. And that is exactly what we are going to do. Everything is now going to be automated. And as things happen, you're going to get little pop-ups that tell you what is happening. For instance, we've just seen that people are being promoted to our cabinet, and one has been assigned to increasing control in this province here of Beira Littoral. One of them has been assigned to converting my capital region, I assume, to Catholicism. I'd be surprised if it wasn't. Now what I want you to do is just go, make yourself a cup of tea or coffee, a nice cold drink, maybe a sandwich, put it onto 4 speed, and then just press play and let the game happen. Look, the time is going through. The game is adjusting itself. Look, it's making rivalries. It's appointing embassies. We're stabilizing the company. Things are getting moved about all over the place. There's going to be a lot of tooltips. And like, I can't emphasize this enough. There's going to be a lot of tooltips to read, but what you will watch is the game playing itself. EU5 is approximately 500 years long. There is a lot going on in this game, and I think there is a lot to say for just kind of spacing out a little bit, watching things like the economy, watching things like the diplomatic tab, and just seeing how the game plays itself. It will give you a really, really good sense of how things work. For instance, we can see in this major event, the 100 Years' War has started between France and England. I'm sure it won't be very long, this war. It's absolutely tiny, famously so. We can also see we are doing things like there's a pasture being improved, constructions are being made, buildings are being put up. This is all lovely. The game will kind of tell you how to play itself. All you need to do is sit back and watch. Watch it go through, watch it happen, and just read the pop-ups. It will give you a really, really good sense of the history of the game, the decisions that are making, and you can step in and just sort of tweak decisions. Like, for instance, would I like to side with the nobility or the merchants? We'll go for nobility in this case. I was just told that I can't increase relations with England anymore because we're now best friends. You can see the game has put a very high cost of court in order to increase our stability. Not our stability, our legitimacy very high, but it doesn't think I need stability or diplomatic spending, so it's taken those down. Now, I will admit, will this game play itself optimally? No, absolutely not. Is this game likely to go very well at all? No. You might find Portugal collapsing into civil war. You might find the game making a bit of a mess of it, but that also, in a sense, is quite good because all you need to do is just passively learn. You'll get stuck in before you know it, and this kind of brings me to one of the fun things about the automation system. It can be changed as you go. I can take things on and off. Like, for instance, okay, I'm getting really annoyed by the fact that diplomatically things keep moving about and I hate the pop-ups. I'm just going to take that off. And maybe out of everything, I don't really want it to change the balance of my economy. So I'll take that off because, you know what? I fancy giving this a little tweak. I fancy having a play and just moving this around and moving this and this, like having a play myself. You can bring things into the game slowly as you go. I recommend maybe even go to 5 speed, sit back and watch the entire game unfold. You will see all of the events playing out, all of the major historical events. You'll see the progression of the tech tree and how that changes as you start from the Age of Traditions and go all the way through to the Age of Revolutions. You'll see storms, you'll see diseases, you'll see other nations coming and going. You'll get a very good sense about how this game is supposed to be played. And, you know, if it all goes wrong, you'll also know how it's not supposed to be played. Is this cheating? Yes, it absolutely is cheating, but that's okay. You can cheat. So, okay, we've decided who we're going to play, and we're going to stick with Portugal for a little while. We now move on to my third major topic as we dive more into the actual mechanics of the game. This, I think, is one of the most important topics in the game, and it divides into proximity, control, and the big question of how on earth do I make money? The economy tab is a very helpful tab. This gives you a sense of how much gold you are bringing in every month. Currently, you can see this line wiggles up and down and up and down, and it will continue to do so. Money in this game is incredibly unstable. You can see I have a positive line and then a negative line. Positive line shows me all the ways I'm making gold, from minting, which effectively is literally just printing free money. If I do too much of it, you can see inflation begins to become a thing. If I don't do enough, I reduce inflation. Just find the sweet spot, basically as high up as it will go without going red. Do you see? Like that. There we go. We then have an ability to tax our 4 estates. You can see at the top of the game, these are all of the estates. Most countries have 4, some have 5 or 6. They broadly break down into your noble class, your religious class, your merchant class, and your pleb workers. The happier they are, the more tax you can get away with inflicting on them, and the more tax rate you have, the more money you make. Currently, my nobles and my merchants are basically making me nothing, and my commoners are making me a lot. Then we get money from trading, which is the buying and selling of goods on the marketplace, and then we're able to sell food. We then have various things that come out of the balance. Buildings, like the cathedrals and monasteries, all have maintenance on them. The cost of the court, the king does be spending a lot of money in turn earn getting legitimacy, but we can also spend it on things like stability, the loyalty of our subjects, and diplomatic spending. There's all kinds of ways it can go up and down. By and large, one of the ways of doing really well in this game is to make this number go up. The more money you make, the better you do. So how does that work? We go down to the bottom, we will find this tab. Control R will get you there, but control. What is control? Well, let's have a look. Our capital, Lisbon, will always have 100 control. 100 out of 100. This is literally where our throne sits, and because we live there, everyone obeys us without question. However, the further and further and further we go away from our capital, you will see the less control we have over our land. Some things will help. For instance, you can see this little dotted line going up the map. This is a road. If there is a road between connections, the connections will have, or places will have, more proximity to each other and the control will be higher. You can also see that currently one of my cabinet members has been automated. We have a look in here to increase control in this whole area. This actually increases the maximum control of the entire area by 51%, which is pretty big. It's a really, really good thing. If you're not sure what to be doing, increasing control is quite a useful one. So what does control actually mean? If we select any province, like Lisbon, for instance, and put our mouse over this key, we will see what control is. The main thing is it allows us to access some of our tax base. Tax base is effectively the representation of all of the money we're making in this province. So in Lisbon, you can see we have a bunch of buildings making a bunch of things. Tools guilds and potters guilds and weaponsmiths, all of these will be making products which are then being sold, and that increases the tax base. Now that tax base is divided up between who owns it, like for instance, that tax base of 12.24. Some of that belongs to the laborers, some of that belongs to the burghers, some of that belongs to the clerics, and then they all have a tax rate applied to it. So unfortunately, it says 12.24 gold. I'm not actually getting 12.24 gold. You can see at the bottom, total taxes from this location is only 3 because of the different tax rates on different people. But because I have 100% control, I have the option to have a maximum tax base in this area. If, however, I go to the settlement of Pinhel over here, this is a rural settlement that is making 0.16 tax base. It's really not making any gold at all. But because I've only got a control of 15%, I'm only accessing 15% of that. So that is how it got to the 0.16. It should be 1.1. And then once I've taxed the population, I'm only getting 0.04 gold. So when you look at control, literally, this is a percent of the money that you could be making from this location you're actually making. Control is a very, very useful mechanism to get your head around. It doesn't just do that. Control also gives you increase of army levies and naval levies, which is a way of bringing your population into your army in case you want to attack or defend somewhere, as well as helping with things like promotion and assimilation. There's a lot of mechanics here. Big control number, good. Small control number, bad. So I can hear you asking, how do I increase control? Well, we go down to the bottom and we go to the next one, proximity to capital. This will give you a sense of the main mechanism that increases control. How proximity driven is it to the capital? How easy is it to get from a capital to that location? And there's a few things that change this. Firstly, if the capital has access to a body of water, like the coast, anywhere along the coast will have increased control. So having a naval capital like Lisbon is a really good thing. Rivers can sometimes increase control because trade can go up and down them. Again, it's like Lisbon has been put in a sensible place for some reason. It's just really useful. And finally, roads. Roads decrease the amount of time it takes for you to literally get your horse and child on a cart and pull it all the way from one place to another. So that increases proximity. So if I go like 1 tile away, you'll see the proximity is 82%, and that is directly affecting the control of this place. Whereas if I want to get over to here, proximity is -9%. It's very, very difficult to get from here to there. Just being on the water will increase proximity, but you can also increase that by building wharfs. We start with as many as we can build because they can only be built in major locations, but having a wharf will increase the amount of trade that can flow between them, and that increases proximity. You can also build roads. roads. Let's for instance, Lisbon to Evora. I want this to be better connected. I can simply go in and build the road from one to the other. It does cost quite a bit to do that. It's 173, but this is a way you can connect up major locations. 170 gold sounds like a lot, but well, if I'm gaining 0.8 per month, I will make that back within about 250 months. So within about 10 years, I'll make my money back. It's actually not that bad. Okay, well, now we know how to access the tax base. How do you actually increase it? Well, simple thing, buildings. Use your gold to make more gold. Simply click on a population that's spare and we'll say, okay, let's sort this by the amount of maximum profit. A carpenter's guild. This will make furniture, and furniture is incredibly expensive on the market right now. So there's a lot of gold to be made here. If I was to start building, let's say one of these, and one of these, and one of these, and one of these, and I come back later, my population would be employed in those buildings. That would generate more tax base, which would then be taxed, and it would go back to my coffers eventually. This is where the tax rate becomes quite interesting as well. The happier a estate is, the more you can tax them, because tax makes people unhappy. The commoners and the burghers are, by and large, very, very happy at the moment. You want every estate to be above 50%. If it's got a red bar, it's below 50%, and they could rebel. Green bar, it's above 50%. They're generally pretty happy, and you can tax them more. So in this case, for instance, the nobles are being taxed at 12.5%, but they could be taxed at 24.5%. It's just that if I did that, they'd get really grumpy with me. So better to leave that alone and let the tax come down a bit. And that's kind of by and large it. Make buildings, increase the tax base, increase the control, increase the rate of tax. Eventually, you'll make the money. The last thing you can do, if we have a look at the production menu and go into goods, we can open this, the RGO, Resource Gathering Operations. This is kind of the start of the chain. As you can see, every single province on the map has a different resource allocated to it. Some of them are more expensive than others. Horses, for instance, are worth a lot of money, as is iron and salt. Whereas if we scroll down, some of this isn't worth very much at all, like fish or tin or olives. At the moment, there's not much demand for that. These improvements tend to be quite cheap, and having more resources is always good. Find things that generally hold their value quite well, like gold and silver, gems. I mean, precious metals and diamonds are always going to be worth a lot, and improve them, or just simply order everything and just go, yes, I will keep improving these. The more resources you have, the more tax base you have. Easy stuff. We now descend onto our fourth topic, because unfortunately, that's not the only way to make money. There is another more complicated way to make money, and it's called trade income. Trade income applies to markets. Wait, hang on. Markets? Trade? Help! Yes, this bit is incredibly complicated. Let's just have a look at this. This is a map showing all of the different markets on the map at the moment. You can see we have the Lisboa market, or the Lisbon market, but there's also the Burgos, the Sevilla, the Thaz, the Barcelona, Bordeaux, Paris, Genoa, Tunis. Yeah, that's right. Some countries are literally divided between markets, but what does that mean? Well, it's simple. Every single resource that is either dug up from the ground or made in a building is dumped into the market. Inside the market, every one of those resources has a price. The more demand it has, the price goes up. The more is supplied, the price goes down. So some things are going to be really in demand and some things will be really in excess. For instance, right now in the Portugal market, fish is very, very abundant. We have way more coming in than we actually need. So the price of this is very rubbish. However, wheat is very, very expensive, as is sturdy grains and fruit and furniture, because we're not making anywhere near as much of it as we need to. This is another way to go through. Simply find a resource that's really in need, and then we can click on the resource gathering operation, find everywhere that makes it, and go, yeah, we'll have a little bit of all of that. Lovely. Very nice way to improve your land. Markets, however, well, they're not isolated. They can trade with each other, and that is where this comes on, trade income. Now, I would always recommend having trade automated. Again, this will divide opinion, because trade is one of the ways you can make the most money in the game. So if you don't have this automated, it is possible to make an absolute ton of money if you know what you're doing. However, I think that's incredibly difficult. I would keep this automated and the game will make the trades for you, basically trying to make as much money as it can by bringing things into your market or selling it to other markets. You can see, for instance, we're trading with the Colne market for some jewelry. We're trading with London and Edinburgh for resources as well. It's all happening automatically. This is a really, really, really good way to make money, but you need to have capacity. This in the top left shows you everything that we need to know. Currently, we have 10.2 trade capacity in the market. That means we can make up to 10.2 trading weight, and you can see all the weights here, worth of trades before. We just don't have the ships. We don't have the capacity to process that many goods. I would always recommend getting this number as quickly as you can to somewhere between 30 and 50. Generally speaking, that gives you enough capacity for the market to kind of balance itself out a little bit and for you to make a ton of money, because every time you buy and sell things, you can make money from it, from your trade income. And this is a really direct way of making it. It's not going through tax base. It's not doing anything. It literally just happens. So how do we improve that? Well, we go to production, we go to buildings, and we go to the marketplace. The marketplace, each one we build increases the amount of trade that we can have in the market by 1. So currently Lisbon's market had 10, which means we roughly have 10 markets in. But as you can see, the capacity for this is huge. If I was to build one of these, it would take 250 burgers, and you can see here there's 399 available, 799 available, 200, so you can see where they're happening. There's nothing wrong at the start of the game of just going, I'll build 2 there and 2 there, 2 there. Let's go 2 there, 2 there, 2 there, and 2 there. And we're just going to literally pump the number up as quickly as we can. Let's just have a look at this. 10.2. 5 speed. I'll speed through the game quickly just to let all this build. Okay, so that batch is done. And as you can see, our trade income is now up to 6. We're making more money now, and that's because more trade is happening. We've increased the trade capacity in this market from 10 to 24, and it's all being automatically used, bringing things in and out, all making me more and more money. I would recommend playing a few games with a single market before you try and do one with multiple markets, because for instance with Castile, because there's 2 markets here, you actually have 2 different areas where you're making goods and you have to trade between them. It can get a little bit complicated at times, but just allowing this to automate will take so much of the pressure off the game. As a reminder, marketplace, very helpful building. Make sure your market capacity gets up to somewhere between 30 and 50 as soon as you can. Eventually you will find that the gold you make from trading does tend to tail off. Like I'm making 3 gold from 1.5 capacity up here, but only 0.48 gold from 1.6 capacity. So, it goes up and down, but you can always come in and, sort of tweak it a little bit. Now we go on to the last and final 5th point of this little mini tutorial that I have entitled, "But wait, everyone is dead?" We're going to be talking about population, promoting population, and yes, the fact that everybody dies, and there's really not much you can do about it, and it's fine. Now, if I go into the production tab and we make our way into the buildings and have a look for something that will make us some gold, we can see, carpenters guilds are going to make us a lot of gold right now. Let's decide to make some. A carpenters guild takes 200 burgers, but as you can see, most of our locations don't have any available. Lisbon has 109 spare, not 200. Coimbra has 0, and Faro actually has -31. Well, how on earth do we actually get population? There are not enough people ready to work. Well, do not worry. The people are there. They're just not in the right places just yet. Let's have a look at Faro as a good example. Faro has 20,000 people. That's a lot of people. And actually, most of them are just available as peasants. So when it says that there are -31 burgers available, well, 15,800 people are there. They're just not promoted and educated enough to take those jobs, but they can be, because look at this promotion. Do you see this? Peasants constantly get promoted to fill the needs of every other class above them, be it laborers, burghers, clerics, or nobles. Now, promotion is affected by quite a few things, but the 3 I want you to keep in mind are control. The more control you have over an area, the more population are promoted. You can see it here. Job needs. The more jobs there are that are unfilled, the more promotion will happen. So if you literally create a glut of open jobs, people will want to take them and they'll promote. But then education. Now, different nations have different ways of educating. It depends on your country. It depends on your government. For instance, Portugal has a building called the library. The library will promote more people. And because of this, you want libraries built in pretty much every single major town, city, or settlement. Let's go to buildings. We'll search for the library, and we can see currently we have none available because we can't build it because we don't have enough books. You need resources to make buildings, and there are no books. How do we make books? Well, there's only one way available to us, the scriptorium. So we can go in here and we can see, here's the scriptorium. Scriptoriums are a building that priests use, and there's always loads of priests. People always want to join the church. But what I'll do is I'll just go through and say, hey, I'll make some of these everywhere because these are going to be all the towns, and then we'll just push these through, let these finish. There we go. They're all built, which means I now have books, and we're now available to start building libraries, which we can start doing. You need a lot of books to build things, so we're going to have to build these one at a time. And there we go. The library is there. It's currently not quite employed, ironically, but we can now see when it comes to the population being promoted as a base value, but the library and plenty of opportunities is now increasing that quite significantly. It's also worth keeping your stability very high. The more stability you have, the more your population will promote, and you want them to promote. So the lesson here is kind of when you're looking to build things, take this number with a pinch of salt. You don't want the number to go so far into the negative that it's like, oh no, we're missing 3,000 people and that will take years and years to replace them. That isn't very good, but a small negative is actually exactly what you want. You want to have a small negative of population, because just by keeping that in, we will realize that we're actually promoting people faster because of it. So scriptoriums for books, libraries to get that population promoted and build the jobs that they promote up. It's kind of simple when you think about it. Don't worry if the number's negative. As long as this number at the bottom is positive, the people are there. They just may be promoting quite slowly. It's worth having a look. Just have a look at this number. It'll tell you where they're all going. But do you remember I said death? Well, yeah, about that. Something happens at the beginning of the game, and we're just going to push a couple of years through until we see it, that may cause you to question your own ability at this game. It may cause you to want to, I don't know, stop playing. But don't worry, it's perfectly normal. And here it is, the Black Death. This, when it first hit me like an absolute truck, and I needed to actually go to the other content creators who had early access in this game and say, is this okay? I feel like I'm really bad. And they were like, don't worry, this happens to everyone, it's fine. 1346, the Black Death appears. Well, what is the Black Death? One of humanity's worst ever pandemics to date. It was absolutely horrible. There's a couple of things I want you to have a look at. Firstly, take a look at our population. 1.347 million people live in Portugal, a fine number. Let's have a look at the Black Death situation. Currently, there's not much going on, but oh no, what is that? What's this over here? That's a big green area, isn't it? I'm sure nothing bad will happen about this at all. I'm sure nothing is gonna happen. Yeah, it gets really bad. Oh no, it might have found its way into Lisbon via the ports. Don't worry though, it's only killed 20 people. Nope, sorry, it's only killed 54 people in our country. That's barely it. Yeah, that's looking a lot more green than it. Oh no. Yeah, our entire country has it now. By the way, you get a load of out options to try and prevent the spread of it. Trust me when I say none of them work. None of them work. Look, it's finally going away. I'm sure that wasn't bad at all, was it? Oh no, 560,000 people died. Yeah, no, I wasn't joking. We have a look at this, from 1.35 million people to 796,000. Well over 500,000 people died, more than a third of the entire population of my country. It is absolutely brutal, and if we have a look, you'll see, oh no, we're missing employees from literally every job. I mean, every job. If we have a look at Lisbon itself, you see, look, missing. So many people are dead. You might want to, at this point, stop the game. And I totally understand. First time I saw it, I was like, no, this is terrible. You can't recover from this. But you can. Because here's the thing about the Black Death. It did kill 85 million people, of which 500,000 of those was in Portugal. But it's absolutely devastating. But this became a renewal. This was a chance for society to reset. Literally all of of the nobles and burghers and everyone with educated jobs, they were all dead. And the peasants then had to rise up and become educated. So it's not the end of the world. As long as you've got peasants, your population will recover. We didn't need 1.3 million people. 800,000 is perfectly good enough to have a thriving economy. You still have money. You still have capabilities in the market. You will survive, especially because everyone was hit with it, you know? Literally everyone was hit with this. I mean, some countries like China lost 20.5 million people. It's not as bad as that. Use this as another opportunity to get more books, build more libraries, and promote more population into the new jobs. Yes, we're missing 446, but 60 are being promoted every month. It's fine. They'll come back. And that is the beginning and end of my starter's guide to Europa Universalis 5. Thank you again to Paradox for allowing me early access and sponsoring this video. It was good fun to make. I can't wait to see what you get up to in this game. It is so complicated that genius can happen. And I, for one, am looking forward to getting my teeth into it more. Let me know in the comments if you enjoyed this style of video. But until next time, I will see you later. Goodbye.